Welcome everyone to this episode of Brookwood Bite Size featuring Dave Leighton, experienced Interim Operations Director. Joining us, do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself and tell us a bit about your background?
Yeah, thanks, Alistair. So I've been an interim manager for 10 years now. I enjoy the variety around the interim life. Before that, predominantly logistics based. So my history in my career was working for the big corporate logistics businesses. And since then, through my interim careers, more diverted through private equity businesses, still remaining within logistics and manufacturing, but focus on the private equity groups.
Okay, very good. So what I'm keen to tap into today, Dave, is just more about kind of operational situations in this current climate. And I suppose my first point to you, which I'd like to get your thoughts on, is how are businesses adapting to the current climate from an operational perspective? That's
an interesting question, Alistair. So I think most businesses have really had to turn them heads. Even the retailers, whilst they're doing more of the same, they're doing much more of the same. We've heard talk on the news of, it's like 3 times Christmas, but for a longer,
Yep.
So, a lot of businesses have turned their hands to other activities. We see car manufacturers and vacuum manufacturers making ventilators. We see high-end clothing manufacturers manufacturing gowns and masks for the NHS and care workers. And I think, some of the wholesalers and food service businesses turn their hand more and more to find other areas to sell their stock either through retailers and supporting that channel, or through click and collect, click and delivery, and supporting the public in general in feeding the nation. And whilst I'm older, I wasn't around when the war was on, but I'm sure most people can get a feeling that in the war it must, as a community, have felt like this, and businesses at that time did adapt very quickly. So I think as a nation we should be very proud of how we've adapted, and I've seen some real good examples around my network as to how businesses have adapted.
Very good. And we'll talk about adapting now. Obviously that's an interim measure. We have to adapt to the current climate and the current situation we see in front of us. But what does the long-term strategy look like? What about exit planning? How is it going to look in terms of change and transformational management, do you think, moving forward?
Wow. Well, that's the $1 million question. So, what will the new landscape look like? Nobody knows, do they? We can all speculate, but as a result of that, businesses need to, and I hope they all are, look at different scenarios, get a good set of insights into the market. It's key to stay close to customers, to understand their feeling as to, what their new landscape will look like, and start to plan around being agile enough to be prepared to hit the ground running as and when we do come out the other side. Clearly, I think we're all expecting a phased unlocking down. So, we need, it's all about being agile. It's all about being close to customers. It's about being brave, I think, as well, because this will be a very different landscape in many, many worlds. So, if you think about the online retailers, they must be, I'm not saying they're profiteering, because I don't think they are, but, they will have rocketed in terms of their activity. So they're doing more of the same. But other businesses, it will be very different, and they need to be prepared for that, and they need to be thinking about it now. And it's lots of preparation, lots of planning, and lots of scenarios. But definitely, if no one's doing it, they need to be doing it now.
Yes, certainly. I mean, it's going to be hard to forecast how the landscape looks, but like you say, I think there's going to be a massive change in behaviour now internally in organisations, and I suppose that kind of leads me on to my next point about the opportunity for interim resource now. As businesses go through change, they tend to look for external consultants and an external kind of resource to help them with that change and transformation. I feel it's going to create a big opportunity now for the interim market, particularly in this supply chain space.
Yeah, that's going to be a difficult decision for business leaders, because they'll inevitably be coming out of this bruised financially, and instinctively would not look to be investing in support, I would have thought. I think, however, those that have got the good foresight will see an opportunity to bring in support. And the reason I'm saying that is, lots of businesses operate very well. And prior to all this, they had good management teams that could run their business day to day and adapt to new ways of working that were planned and structured. This is going to be very different. When we come out the other side, businesses will have to operate differently. They will have to operate differently in a quick manner. And there's a risk that their management teams will be battle weary. They'll have come out of having to have reacted a hell of a lot to, all the changes that we've all gone through. And they'll probably take a bit of a sigh of relief when really we need them to be stepping up, facing into it and leaning into the challenge. So I think businesses would do well to investigate bringing in support, short-term support, to be able to lead their management teams to the new world in a safe environment. Whilst, most good interims, they keep their eye on the final objective, get there quickly, can help support teams to get there, and then hand over the day-to-day running when they're at the new world operating format to the management team. The risk of not doing that means, management teams will inevitably revert to type, and the journey to the new world will just be delayed doing that way. And those companies that end up in that position may not last.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. I mean, that's really insightful information, obviously, from a really experienced operations director, Dave. So thank you for your insight. It's been really refreshing at the coal face, rolling their sleeves up and meeting this challenge, and actually can still foresee what that looks like. One final question from me, which I'm asking to everybody. It's away from work. So outside of work, what's the one thing you've done most during this lockdown period?
Crikey, I'm going to answer that in two ways, actually. The one thing I've done least, and people who know me would be surprised it's not particularly bothered me, is a few pints down my local. And I find it surprising that hasn't bothered me. In that way, I'm looking forward to when we open up again, how my life will look then. But the one thing I've done quite a bit of is walking. I'm not the health freak that a lot of people are. I don't go to the gym, but I've enjoyed walking more. And in this new world when traffic is light and a lot of people aren't around, it feels quite nice. It does feel. Yes, very good, I would say.
Lovely. All right, Dave. Well, thank you for your time today. We really do appreciate your insight. And thanks, everybody, for watching this Brookwood Bite Size with Dave Leighton. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Bye-bye.